The moment Maria opened the bedroom door, her heart nearly stopped. Her little daughter Lily, still wearing the pink pajamas Maria had tucked her into hours earlier, was peacefully asleep on the chest of the one man Maria had spent the last 3 years trying desperately to avoid disappointing, her millionaire boss, Daniel Hart. Daniel was lying against the pillows, one arm resting protectively around the sleeping child, while Lily hugged her worn teddy bear as if she had finally found the safest place in the world. Maria stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the impossible scene. She had come to the mansion late that evening because she had forgotten an important folder, never imagining she would discover her daughter inside the master bedroom. But what frightened her most was not that Lily had fallen asleep there. It was the expression on Daniel's face when he opened his eyes and saw Maria standing there. He didn't look angry. He looked heartbroken. Before we continue, if you believe in humanity tales, second chances, kindness, and the idea that one compassionate moment can change someone's life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. Maria had worked as a housekeeper for Daniel for almost 3 years. She knew the mansion was enormous, the furniture expensive, and the paintings worth more than everything she owned, but she had never allowed herself to feel impressed by any of it. Her only concern was earning enough to keep a roof over her head and food on Lily's table. After Lily's father disappeared from their lives, Maria had learned to become both mother and provider. She worked long hours, cleaned houses on weekends, and sometimes stayed awake until midnight repairing Lily's school clothes. She never complained because every sacrifice had one purpose, giving her daughter a better future. Daniel Hart was known throughout the city as a cold but brilliant businessman. Newspapers called him a self-made millionaire, and people often described him as someone who valued numbers more than emotions. Employees rarely saw him smile. He lived alone in the enormous mansion after losing his wife several years earlier. What nobody at work knew was that Daniel's wealth had never filled the emptiness left behind by that loss. His wife had died after a long illness, and their greatest regret was that they never had the family they had dreamed of building. Since then, Daniel had buried himself in business. Maria had always kept Lily away from the mansion. She believed children did not belong in a place like that, and she especially didn't want Daniel thinking she was bringing personal problems into his home. But that afternoon, everything went wrong. Lily's babysitter called Maria and said she could no longer watch her. Maria couldn't afford to miss work, so she brought Lily with her, telling the little girl to stay quietly in the staff room until she finished. Maria had no idea Lily had wandered upstairs while looking for her teddy bear. When Maria finally discovered her daughter in Daniel's bedroom, shame overwhelmed her. She immediately expected to lose her job. She stepped forward, ready to apologize, but Daniel raised one hand gently. He looked down at Lily and then back at Maria. Instead of shouting, he whispered that he had found the little girl wandering the hallway earlier. Lily had been frightened and crying because she couldn't find her mother. Daniel had sat down beside her and promised that Maria would come back. Somehow, the exhausted child had fallen asleep against him. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she explained everything. She told him about the babysitter, the bills, the long hours, and how terrified she was of losing the only stable job she had. She expected judgment. Instead, Daniel listened in silence. Then he said something Maria never expected: he understood. Daniel admitted that he had spent years believing money could protect people from pain. He had built a massive house, a successful company, and a life that looked perfect from the outside, but none of it had made the loneliness disappear. Watching Lily sleep had reminded him of the family he once dreamed of having. For the first time in years, the mansion had not felt empty. The next morning, Maria arrived at work expecting an awkward conversation. Instead, Daniel handed her a small envelope. Inside was not a dismissal notice but a letter offering her a promotion to manage the household staff, along with a salary increase and flexible hours so she could spend more time with Lily. Maria stared at the paper in disbelief. But Daniel wasn't finished. He had noticed something else during the previous night. Lily's old teddy bear was badly worn, her shoes were too small, and the little girl had been doing her homework beside the staff kitchen because Maria couldn't afford after-school care. Daniel quietly arranged for Lily to attend a reputable school program and covered the educational expenses through a scholarship fund established in memory of his late wife. He made it clear that Maria owed him nothing. Maria refused at first. Pride made her uncomfortable accepting help. Daniel understood and told her that kindness wasn't charity when it came from genuine compassion. He explained that his wife had once believed success meant nothing unless it could be used to make another person's life better. For years, he had forgotten that lesson. Slowly, something changed inside the mansion. Lily began visiting after school, no longer wandering secretly through the halls but welcomed openly. Daniel discovered that she loved drawing, especially pictures of families sitting around dinner tables. One afternoon, she gave him a drawing. It showed herself, Maria, and Daniel sitting together beneath a bright yellow sun. Daniel stared at it for a long time, unable to speak. Maria watched from the doorway, realizing that the man she had once feared was not the emotionless millionaire everyone described. He was simply a lonely person who had forgotten how to let people into his life. Months passed, and the mansion became warmer. There were children's drawings on the refrigerator, laughter in the hallways, and family dinners around a table that had once been used only for business meetings. Daniel never tried to replace Lily's father, and Maria never expected him to. What developed between them was something much more meaningful: trust, respect, and a shared understanding that family can sometimes be created by people who choose to care for one another. One evening, Maria stood outside the bedroom where everything had begun. She remembered the fear she had felt when she first saw Lily asleep on Daniel's chest. She had thought that moment would destroy her life. Instead, it had changed it forever. Daniel walked past and smiled. Lily was asleep nearby, clutching her teddy bear once again. Maria looked at her daughter and realized that the greatest miracle had never been the money, the mansion, or the opportunities Daniel had provided. It was the simple fact that a lonely millionaire had opened his heart to a frightened little girl, and in doing so, discovered that compassion was worth more than every fortune he had ever earned. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Humanity Tales so these stories of kindness can continue reaching people who need them. And before the story ends, comment, "Kindness changes everything," if you believe one small act of compassion can completely change someone's life. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments become the turning points we never knew we needed. Maria thought she had opened a door that night only to face humiliation and lose everything she had worked for. Instead, she discovered that behind the walls of a millionaire's mansion lived a lonely heart waiting for one innocent child to remind it how to love again. And Lily, asleep peacefully in his arms, had unknowingly brought two broken lives together, not through wealth, but through kindness, trust, and the courage to give someone a second chance.